So welcome everyone to this first talk of our 4-day midsummer online retreat. It's a gift, a wonder, together across geographies and time zones in this Zendo without walls, without edge or border, limitless, empty, yet fully occupied by our practice. Each one sitting, walking, listening, and at the same time, just one all-pervading sitting. We've titled this retreat, Suffering and Beauty, How the Heart Opens. So earlier I drew on a quote from the Buddha, within this fathom-long body. This is the quote. This body is found all of the teachings, is found suffering, the cause of suffering, and the ending to suffering. That's this discrete body with its sense gates, experience, hindrances, and intrinsic potential to awaken, to realize what this body really is. There's another quote from the Pali Canon where the Buddha says of this teaching, the Dharma is beautiful at the beginning, beautiful in the middle, and beautiful at the end. Suffering, the cause of suffering, the ending to suffering. Beauty in the beginning, beauty in the middle, beauty at the end. The Dharma, the teaching, that which you are. Today, as a way of exploring this matrix of suffering and beauty and the fulcrum, the 0 point that collapses the matrix and opens the heart beyond any boundary, I'd like to take up that barest koan, mu. Inexhaustible, ageless, completely new. The case is known as Joshu's dog, but really it's just mu. During our last retreat, Henry introduced what John Gaynor called the 5 stages of practicing with mu. The movement from listening to hearing, to emptying, to realizing, to returning. Henry noted this process may map onto practice as it unfolds in the course of a retreat or in the course of a lifetime. Listening, hearing, emptying, realizing, returning. What if all stages converge in a single hearing of the case? Now. Nothing but now. Here's the case. a monk asked Joshu in all earnestness, "Does a dog have Buddha nature or not?" Joshu said, "Mu." The translation renders "mu" with an exclamation point. Loud, soft, short, long. Mu pulverizes that. I'm reminded of Henry's beautiful talk last Thursday, where he read and conveyed a statement on Zen by the former abbot of Joshu's temple, Jinghui. At the end of his talk, Henry invited me to say just a brief word about Jinghui, who I met 16 years ago during a teacher training session at Bailin Temple. Our group was greeted by Ming Hai. In 2005, the new young abbot, successor to Jinghui. Then a few days later, the former abbot addressed us. He had an interpreter, but Jinghui's voice was so compelling, it overrode any effort to divide listening and tune into the delayed English. Instead, it was an experience of hearing, mostly a flood of sound, melodically nuanced, strung along like music on some ancient, unfamiliar instrument. But then breaking through and gradually building in frequency. One word, utterly recognizable, a sound of a different order. And with it, the whole message. Woo, woo, woo. Chinese for mu. The answer Joshu would have given to the earnestly asking monk. Woo, mu. Across time and space. But there's no crossing. It's right here. If you're new to this koan, the invitation is not to worry the question, does a dog have Buddha nature? And not to worry the implied question, do I? Do I have awakened nature? What is awakening? Mu takes care of that. Nothing but mu. So here we are at a retreat, of course, just practicing, but tuned to exploring suffering and beauty. And mu comes rushing in. Mu is always at the ready wherever we turn. This all-pervading, infinitely dynamic mu, you could say, is the axis on which suffering and beauty turn. And mu is the whole of it, no place for a gap. Still, I didn't have in mind to begin with mu until a couple of incursions this week You could say Mu incursions. One was a Q&A with a small, I call it small and mighty, Sambo Zen Sangha in Gainesville, Florida, a sibling Sangha to Mountain Cloud with some active cross-pollination. Shanna's gift to us, for example. So in that Q&A, the questions that came up were heartrending and very familiar. They were all about separation and suffering, generously exposing the nerve of suffering, generously just right to the heart of the matter. Dissatisfaction or dis-ease, wanting things to be other than they are or other than we perceive them to be. Dislocation, like a wheel off center with its axis, its axle. I took in the questions, an outpouring of lack, inadequacy, artifice and comparison, anxiety and doubt, doubt about the self, doubt about this life, doubt about practice. Is it good enough? Am I good enough? Is this enough? And my responses were familiar, springing from this practice. Loosen your grip. Rest in the here and now. Look into things just as they are. Let sitting soften us, soften our hearts and open. Put another way, entrust yourself to this practice, and this dissolving, tenderizing, opening will happen. It will happen because compassion is native to who we are. From that native ground comes a natural welling up of gratitude, not based on conditions, a wellspring right where you are. Deserving or not deserving is like a crusty remnant of a sandcastle washed out to sea, where there may have been a sense of lack or not enough. In comes the great sufficiency and freedom. No basis for comparing. And with it, great support everywhere you turn. In this wellspring, we somehow know that nothing is wasted. Nothing is lacking. Nothing at all. And yet, complete, replete. I offered something along these lines in response to the questions. An invitation, a reflection of the practice we're already doing. Like that mirror. Joshu doesn't say anything like this. The monk comes asking, and his question is imbued with all the doubt, lack, and sense of separation we can conjure. Joshu answers completely. Mu. Mu. What this is. Mu. A way to realize it. Mu. All our suffering. Mu. Inestimable beauty. Nothing but Mu. On a practice level, what might Mu have to say to questions about lack and comparing, not measuring up? Mu is a check. If you think you're running yourself down or building yourself up, just Mu. If you're feeling inadequate, not enough, take refuge in Mu. Mu is a timeout, no lack, no gap, just one indivisible spaciousness. And Mu is time in. Whatever comes up, just as it is, exactly as it is. Just this. Mu. Mu gets down to the matter. It's not something you're going to figure out. Mu takes you away. No one there to figure or calculate. Sitting with Mu, you start living Mu, or more to the point, Mu is living you, realizing you. Whatever needs doing, let Mu do it, mooing your life. Or as Harada Roshi put it, Mu is mooing Mu. Or as Yamada Kon Roshi said, there is no getting enlightened or not getting enlightened. There is only Mu, purely naked, splendidly undisguised. I mentioned a couple of Mu incursions this week, Mu coming up as if in response to the question, what does beauty have to do with suffering? And how does this touch, this turn, bring about an opening of the heart? One, so to speak, incursion happened yesterday morning, the day before a retreat. I woke up early, as I often do, in anticipation. And then as the dawn light broke, I laid down again for just a few minutes, just to rest. And then was visited by a memory from years ago, almost forgotten. It was from a time when my marriage of well over 20 years was falling apart. And there was this moment one evening when it became clear divorce was inevitable. I came into the bedroom, shut the door, turned out the light, lay down on the bed, and wept. Everything lost. Nothing to do. but cry. Somehow just lying there in this weeping, in this utter sense of loss, there was a moment when it suddenly just turned to beauty, to this life. Just as it is. I would say inestimable beauty. Got up, washed my face, and just went on. This week, a student who's experiencing that cusp, that transmuting turn from suffering to beauty, shared another step on a path that began with a butterfly encounter. I mentioned this in an earlier talk. A few weeks ago, a daily walk on a familiar path, a butterfly flew over her shoulder, quite close. She looked up, sort of wonder and delight. And she saw, this colorful butterfly, and then suddenly the plant and the stones and the tree and the sky. It's all the butterfly. One reality. A few days later, walking on the path, she came to the same place, recalled the vivid memory of that encounter with the butterfly, and realized the memory is right now, not the slightest gap. This week, just a few days ago, outside her window, a bird was perched on a branch. It was a windy day and the branch was moving. The bird with it perched there on the bouncing branch, perched in the wind. Watching this movement, the student said she felt almost nauseous. Such dynamism. She could feel her resistance. And then the realization, the bird is not going anywhere. Constantly moving and utterly still. Our sitting is an expression of it. Fully immersed. Constant change, and at the same time, whatever's coming up, so still. Whether you're practicing with it or not, that's Mu. Last night, my partner and I sat on the couch talking about Mu. Also talking about chaos theory and the butterfly effect, about time and space, and how none of that holds up the way we fathom, imagine. So he's a longtime practitioner and assistant teacher in Sambo Zen. I asked, what do you recall about that first opening with Mu? He readily told it in terms of suffering and beauty, the way the hole in our heart or the unresolved question is suddenly a wide open portal to beauty. Gone, 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 and yet everything rushing in. One body, one radiance shining, dancing, laughing. The shift, though he described this as he named it, was around death. No longer a concern, already done. About 6 years ago, Scott, my partner, he took a road trip to Colorado. It was presidential election. He was going up to help out. And in a long stretch of highway, fortunately a straightaway, he was following a large SUV at a safe distance. But suddenly that SUV just moved very quickly into another lane. And right in front of Scott, facing him, was this giant, torn up tire from a large truck. Massive object in the way. Scott swerved to miss it and then corrected, to miss the wall. And suddenly his car was just turning, flipping off the interstate into an open field that wasn't a very deep drop. The car rolled 3 times. As it rolled, he had this thought: my family will miss me. But there was peace. He says the experience unfolded in what seemed like slow motion. Upside down, I'm dead. Right side up, I'm alive. Upside down, I'm dead. Upright again, I'm alive. I'm dead. I'm alive. The car landed right side up. Scott realized he was basically okay. He got out of the car and stepped into the field somehow. People on the highway had pulled over seeing this horrible wreck and rushed to help. So grateful he was alive. Mu can roll. It's already rolling. That's what this is. Kurt Spellmeyer, a Zen priest and contributing editor to Tricycle magazine, has really a lovely article on awakening to beauty. When asked about the Dharma, Spellmeyer writes, the Buddha consistently used the word beautiful. This beauty has everything to do with sense experience, with suffering, and with awakening to the cries of the world. It shines in what Spellmeyer describes as the absolute convergence of form and emptiness. It shines in Mu. This shining. There's an exchange in the Diamond Sutra between Shakyamuni Buddha and his closest disciple, Subhuti, where Subhuti asks, honored one, in the future, If a person hears this teaching or a part of it, whether a section or a sentence, will true faith awaken in their mind? This trust, this way, this Dharma. The Buddha responding says, if just one person hears just one word of the Dharma, the teaching that points to who we truly are, the reality of things as they are, just one hears and recognizes, receives. It's of more value than the number of grains of sand in the Ganges River. In other words, beyond measure. Just one word. Maybe, or one breath, one striking sound, one arrow to the heart. For the sake of one, Shakyamuni Buddha's long, arduous search and discovery, this great discovery, is worth it. All the practice of the ancestors, the whole of the tradition, one word, one hearing, here. All of it right here. There's a tradition of chanting the Diamond Sutra every day for a month following the death of a loved one. When Maria Habito's father died, dear friend of Mountain Cloud, Scott and I wanted to, do this chanting in solidarity with Maria and as an act of appreciation for her father. We sat and then chanted or sometimes read aloud a shortened form of that very long sutra every night for a month. The version we had took about 25 minutes. This passage about the immeasurable merit of just one person hearing just one word just struck a chord, along with the verse that comes up near the end of the sutra. This verse, itself a koan, a version of mu. So here's the verse with its short introduction. So I say to you, this is how to contemplate our conditioned existence in this fleeting world. Like a tiny drop of dew, or a bubble floating in a stream, like a flash of lightning in a summer cloud, or a flickering lamp, an illusion, a phantom, or a dream. So is all conditioned existence to be seen. Or here is Red Pine's translation. And how should they explain it? By not explaining. Thus, it is called explaining. Just mo. As a lamp, a cataract, a star in space, an illusion, a dewdrop, a bubble, a dream, a cloud, a flash of lightning, view all created things like this. so fleeting, transient, transparent, and yet flashing forth. Nothing at all. And yet, here we are. One last version by an unknown translator. And how should she make it known? By making known the unknown. Stars, darkness, light, a phantom, a dewdrop, a bubble, a dream, a lightning flash, a cloud. This is how all things should be seen. All the things of this world, including the thing we make of this little nucleus of a self, this little tangle, really of beauty. But what if there really is no such thing? What if the I we imagine and set up at the center of our experience, the set of stories we identify with and then wrap ourselves in like a sarcophagus, is a phantom, no more substantial than a dewdrop, a bubble, a lightning flash, a dream? What happens if we drop whatever we think we know and just sit? No recalling, no planning, no projecting. Or if it comes, no sticking. Nothing to stick to. What happens when we entrust ourselves to this moment? This moment. Just this. One longtime practitioner who long ago completed at least one round of the whole koan curriculum asked to take up mu. How shall I begin? Was the question. This great return, this totally new mu. Forget everything you think you know. Nothing but mu. We could say, set aside the constructs, let go the grid. Whatever comes up, let that be all there is. A contraction, a thought, a moment of stillness. Ache in the body. A comment on what's going on. As Mumon puts it, the perfect manifestation, the absolute command. Moment to moment. Not even space for those hyphens. nothing at all to have, and nothing lacking. Thank you for listening. Thank you so much for this shared practice.